Hey everybody, it's me, Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, talking about utility lands.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's episode 123 of the Commander's Brew podcast. Sean, how are you doing tonight?
Ooh, tonight I'm doing great. It is late night. It's Monday night, ready to party, record the podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. This is not the norm for us.
No. Usually we record in the daytime, and as I think about this, I almost exclusively listen to podcasts in the daytime.
Oh yeah, and I bet you that's pretty different for not everybody, but I bet you that's pretty different for a lot of other people who do podcasting. I feel like a lot of people record at night.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess because because we're in like the comedy performing world, so we're usually busy in the nights. So
yeah, we got shows at night and stuff, and then I feel like normal people who do this have jobs, have actual jobs, real jobs,
right?
And or maybe they don't, and they do their podcast during the day. And in fact we are doing the same thing, but who knows? But here we are, man. It feels weird to do this and look outside, and it's so super dark out.
I know and then I think it's kind of appropriate that the content this week is a little bit different. Like it's our late night version.
That's true. This is the late night version.
We're gonna slow things down for you.
Oh, yeah, slowing it down and only talking about the smoothest lands. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're doing. Yeah, we do these once in a while. We mix it up a bit. Usually we bring you a full like deck tech on like a theme or built around some kind of special something. We'll bring in EDH deck or commander deck, but this time it's a little different. Why don't you tell them what we're doing here?
Yeah, so this is another one in our Talkin Bout series where we just kind of go deep on some part of a deck. We've done it for graveyard stuff. This time we're doing it for lands. We're going to talk about all those lands that don't tap for colors only. Right. Or like just fix, right? Like we're going to talk about like what other lands do you use in that? Because we never really talk about lands.
No, I believe we have done a Talkin Bout lands before.
Well, we did talk about mana bases.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
where we kind of went over how we put together mana bases, but I don't think we just talked about like utility lands.
No, exactly. So I really wanted to cover this because it's something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I really wanted to talk about it on the show. We never really get too into lands on our show, and it's for budget reasons. It's for a couple different reasons, but But before we get really into things. The show is brought to you by our patrons.
Our sponsors. Yes. Our patrons. Thank you very much. Get on in on our Patreon and get in on that Discord chat. Lots of stuff going on in there. Super fun chats. We'll be shouting some people out later who threw down some ideas, some cool surprises in Discovery Lands. But also, not only that, we're sponsored by Ultimate Guard Sleeves and Boxes. Loving them boulders, loving using them. Archive boxes, great.
You better believe that's on my Christmas list.
Yeah, I gotta make my Christmas list still.
Yep.
Anyway, and then also sponsored by the Wizards Tower, wizardtower.com. Let's hear an ad from them now.
I won't forget to put it in this time. Let's go.
Hello, this is a public service announcement from the government of Ixalan to remind you that we now do recycling. Yes, it's true. If you're a vampire, if you eat a bunch of people and you have like a bunch of helmets you don't need anymore, recycle them. We could turn them into cannonballs for the pirates. And pirates, if you're thinking of just shooting cannonballs up in the air for no reason, why not shoot them towards our recycling depot? Please don't hit the side of the building. And merfolk, I don't know if you make garbage because you live in the sea. I bet you reuse everything. So reusing is better than recycling. It's the first of the 3 R's. And dinosaurs, I know you don't recycle, but you also don't use products. You just eat things. So keep doing what you're doing, dinosaurs. Really, just vampires and pirates, the humans, right? Humans gotta recycle. That's kind of our thing. Our other thing is the Wizards Tower, wizardtower.com. You can get singles shipped for free anywhere in Canada or the US if you spend $15 or more, and use coupon code BREWSmas for the month of December to get an extra 5% off. And you're going to get a 3% kickback on your next order. That's always a good deal. Recycle some of your money into magic cards through the Wizards Tower. Great. And always remember, coffee cups and coffee lids probably go in separate bins. I still haven't figured that out, and I work here. Anyway, enjoy your day, and I hope you enjoy clean shores for many years to come.
See? I didn't forget it. There it was. Or I did forget it. It's sorry, I'll put it in again later.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you add other things into the podcast that you don't normally do, you forget about the normal things you have to do. Like last time I had to insert the naming of the people who won the Brews News sign off thing. So I think when I did that, I was like, oh yeah, I did my thing where I add something in the middle of this. And I totally forgot to put the Wizards Tower ad in. But then I uploaded a version that had it. So if you listen to it like a day or two after we released it, you got the full thing. You got the ad in there.
Oh yeah, it's a surprise though. Like it's rare now, the one without the ad.
Yeah, that's a misprint. Yeah. It's
a misprint.
Some people pay more for those. Yeah, it's like amongst the collector community. If you can get that MP3, you're feeling pretty good.
Wasn't that Flappy Bird for a while? Didn't they take Flappy Bird out of the Apple Store, so people who had it on their phones were selling their phones for like $1,000 or more?
Really? Oh my god!
Because people wanted that game so badly, which makes no sense because every time there's a good game on the iPhone, there's 100 clones of it in like a month. So
just play like Flap P Bird, like P apostrophe Bird, like you know, play that one. Play the one where it's not a bird but it's a fish, Flappy Fish. Yeah, there you go. You know what I mean?
Jumpy Duck.
That's a good one. Yeah, Flying Pigeon. I don't know. You know what I mean? Play any of those games. Don't buy a phone for $1,000.
Bouncy Frog.
Just to get a free app. But yeah, okay, here we go. We're talking about lands, talking about mana base, or not talking about mana base, we're talking about utility lands. Lands that we essentially put in our decks that also come with like an added utility, an added bonus, an added ability. Usually it's an activated ability. And these lands, as a result, will sometimes have, color identities because they have colors on them, and of course we have to stick to the Commander color identity rules. So we're going to get into all of this kind of stuff. But first of all, let's talk about like how we got a lot to get through, so we're just going to jump right into it, right?
Yeah.
I figure that's the way to do it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about briefly like how many of these lands, how they fit into our mana base. Because they are lands, we can afford to treat them as such, but a lot of these guys are going to be colorless. So how do they affect our land base going forward? Sean, you put together a nice little thing here, so let's get into that.
We just made some rough estimates here because you can't just put infinite lands that produce colorless mana because then you don't get the colors you need. So for the purposes of this math, we're going to assume that you run 38 lands. That's kind of a good average. Maybe it's a bit on the high side, but I prefer to be on the high side.
I think it's for a lot of people. It's a little I think a lot of people are going 40 lands these days.
Well, great.
So
then
I think
you got more room.
Yeah, I think this is a good middle ground to talk about.
And again, these numbers don't take into consideration mana rocks that produce colors. Mm-hmm. And this also doesn't take into consideration if you're running green and have ways to search up a lot of basics. Right? So we're just coming at this from a basic standpoint, adjust as needed. So 38 lands, and as we go through, we're going to use Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds. I put Evolving Wilds in the tab there.
Yeah.
These are just ones that search and sacrifice for any basic land card put on the battlefield tapped. I'm counting those as all of the colors for the purposes of this math.
Right.
So if you're running a monocolor deck, you got tons of room for colorless lands because you only have your like mountains, and then you got room for maybe 8. Put an 8. 8 sounds good. You still got 30 mountains in there, or things that produce red. That's fine. It starts to get a little more complicated once you add colors, obviously. So the way I kind of throw decks together, I always, if it's a dual color deck, I put 3 dual lands of the 2 colors, the cheap ones. And I have 3 all color lands, right? Terramorphic, Evolving, and Command Tower. So if you do an even split, you get 22 sources of each of your 2 colors. And if we throw in 6 colorless lands, we still have 19 sources of each of our 2 colors. So I think you got room for 6, no problem, in a 2-color deck. And if you have more dual lands, you could probably go a little bit deeper there.
Yeah, I'd say for duels, that's where 2-color, like that's where you can go pretty nuts.
You can. I just
you don't
from
go too
the
nuts,
way
but yeah.
Yeah, I mostly, because what you want to watch out for is you don't want to get too few lands that just produce color. Like you have to be able to draw them. But also, like if you split them up too hard, then you just don't. You run the likelihood of more likely of only getting one of your 2 colors, and that just gets tougher and tougher. So the demands on the mana base get harder as you go up colors. We know this. So in a 3-color deck, that's 9 dual lands. 3 dual lands for each color pair. You got 1 tri-land. You got your 3 all-color lands. So if we do an even split that way, just over 18 sources of each of your 3 colors. We can comfortably fit in 4 colorless lands and still have 17 sources of each color. Great. I'm loving that. 4 is decent. Again, you can put some more in if you want to get risky. You want to put in some more dual lands, which you could do. 4 and 5 color decks get tough, right? Yeah. I'm going to sort of go faster on the math here, but the big difference now, when I get to 4 color, I start to include Transguild Promenade and Rupture Spire. Rupture Spire's in the notes there. It's just the one that you have to pay an extra 1 when it enters the battlefield, but it counts as all of you can add 1 of any color to your deck. And once we're above 4 or 5, I think they're worth it.
Yeah, and like remember, we're still talking budget mana bases here. Obviously, you're not running these cards if your land base isn't budget. Like you're probably not going to run Rupture Spire.
Yeah,
but if we're talking about keeping it low, keeping the prices, under $1, even under 2 or 3 gumballs per land, Rupture Spire is a great option when you get to 4 or 5 lands for a 5-color land.
Yeah, right. And if anything, so this quick math kind of illustrates that you do have a lot of sources of your colors. So it does seem fairly, like I hope this illustrates that you really don't need to spend a ton of money on your lands. That's a barrier of cost that a lot of people feel, but you don't need to be afraid of that. Like the budget lands, you still get to play.
Yeah.
So again, with 4 colors, if we do 12 duels and 4 tri-lands and 5 all-color lands, we still get 18 of each color, 18 of each of our 4 color, and we still have room for about 4 colorless lands. We still have 17 sources. And the weird thing is, if we go up to 5 colors, we do less duels, more tri-lands, we get 17 of each source. It's the same number, right? Like we're still hovering here around 17 of each color after we put in 5 or 4 colorless lands. So it seems like there's always room for 4 or 5 colorless lands. You can always afford to put a few in there. So like make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're picking your favorite utility ones.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we know what kind of like numbers we're looking at, and again, you're gonna judge this based on this specific deck and the deck needs, obviously. You're not going to just say 4 is the base I will run in everyone. Well, no, sometimes you don't want any. Sometimes you want more than that. So, and that's not even considering something like needing colorless activations,
right?
Which these can help you with and so on. So anyways, mana base aside, now that we've got our general numbers, let's talk about which ones we want to include, which ones are easier to include, and that sort of things. And like Sean said, it all depends on ramp and fixing and all this type of stuff. But if we're looking at general just utility lands, most of them are colorless, but there are some good ones that actually produce the color you're looking for, so they're not as bad of a strain on your mana requirements, right? So let's
Right.
talk about a couple of these. First one is a white land, very powerful white land. It's a Myria the Sky Ruin. Myria the Sky Ruin enters tapped at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it taps to add white. This is obviously like very much at home in a mono white deck, and it starts to get pretty tough to work even in a 2-color deck, I'd say. You do need to have a lot of basics, like a lot of basics still going, I think.
Yeah.
I've run this in a 2-color deck before, and I just could never get 7 planes. In like a Karametra deck or something, I think it's a different story, or something where you're finding a lot of lands, like it's based on that. That's a different story, but I wouldn't run this anything over 2 colors, that's for sure.
Certainly not over 2. Even 2's a stretch because most duels don't count as planes.
Agreed.
So there's some blue cards that do stuff and still produce blue. How about Teleria West? Comes into play tapped and adds to add blue. Great. But the feature of this one is it has transmute. So, I mean, I suppose it's a semantic issue that it like also taps for blue, because if you play it as a land, you don't get to do its thing.
Yes.
But while it's in your hand, you can pay 1 blue, and tutor up a 0-cost card, which means any other land. So if you have other utility lands, you can use this to get those, your other colorless ones. Or if you have any 0-cost artifacts or something like that, that's also a possibility.
Yeah. This is how much is this card? Around?
It's not bad.
It's not that bad. It's like a $3 card.
$3. Yeah.
This card is pretty good. It's for a land tutor, which can be very helpful in getting your other utility lands. So keep that one in mind if you're in blue. We've also got Halimar Depths. Enters tapped. And when this one does, you can look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. So it's a small effect, but it also taps to add blue. And we have Magosi, the Water Veil, after that. So
I don't know. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, this one's weird. I read this one and wasn't sure if I should even include it because is it worth talking about? But whatever.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It taps for blue, enters tapped. So blue tap, put an Eon counter on Magosi the Water Veil. Skip your next turn. Very weird. But then tap, remove an Eon counter, and then return it to its owner's hand. Take an extra turn after this one. So you bank a turn for the future. Mm-hmm. If someone somehow destroys the land, sucks to be you. Yeah. But I do think that I don't know, man. Would you skip turn 3?
Oh, I don't think I would skip an early turn. I think I'd skip a late turn.
More stuff happens on late turns.
I know, but and I think you would need to be in a very specific deck. I think you need to be very control-y, play everything on other people's turns. And I kind of at the point where oh, okay, I don't have any lands, right? So I'm not going to play a land drop here. So that's kind of and I don't want to play anything on my turn. Maybe all my stuff is all instant speed and I can wait. You could bank that turn and then, you know what I mean? Save it for later or something. I don't know. It seems risky, that's for sure.
I do know that I often find myself in board states where I'm I feel pretty safe right here. I got a lot of good stuff going on. If I were to take the next turn off, I think I'd be all right. You would never activate it on your turn. You would activate it on the last person's end step. So no one would know when you're going to skip your next turn.
Right, yeah. It's a very interesting... I've never seen this card come into play, but it does seem like something that
I want to try it.
It seems like something the right deck could actually make good use of, I'd say.
Yeah,
I want to try it too, actually. So there's a couple blue ones there, a couple black ones. This one's just a complete staple, really, at all levels of Commander. Bojuka Bog. It enters tapped. It produces black mana, and it says whenever Bojuka Bog enters the battlefield, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. This is just an auto-include in anything that has black, I'd say.
Yeah, every time. Yeah. Mortuary Mire is another one that taps for black mana, enters tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you may put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. It kills a draw stat, but that's not bad.
No, it's not necessarily bad. Later in the game, it can draw you. I mean, all the reasons it's good in every other format, it applies to Commander, right? Later in the game, it can draw you. Your next draw will be a good creature. And if you're running graveyard decks, obviously there's added bonus there. And then we have Leech-Ridden Swamp, which is a little bit more of it's like a different thing. It enters tapped, but it is just a swamp. It is a land type swamp. Those other two are not.
That's interesting. I didn't notice that.
But this is a swamp, and you can pay black and tap it. Each opponent loses a life, and activate this ability only if you control 2 or more black permanents. But they don't need to include that it taps to add black because it's just a swamp. That's a characteristic of what a swamp is. So it just does it. So it's interesting. You can search this up with Farseek and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh wait, I guess Farseek just says find a swamp. So yeah, you can totally do that. Anyways, that's black.
Let's talk about a couple of red cards that do some interesting things. This one is Shinka, the Blood-Soaked Keep. Legendary land. It taps to add red, and it doesn't come into play tapped. You could just throw this down and start tapping for a mana right away. Red tap, target legendary creature gains first strike until end of turn. If you got a commander that wants to attack, absolutely you want to run this land. If you're running red, and most red commanders kind of do want to attack.
Yep, I'd say it's pretty much a solid addition to any red deck, especially one that wants to get into combat, right? A free little first strike here and there if you need it is not bad. This is an example where you're not really giving anything up, right? This comes into play untapped. It produces red. It's the only thing you're giving up is a basic land type of mountain. That's what you're giving up there. Mm-hmm. I think that's a pretty small price to pay to have that ability. And also here we have Flamekin Village. Flamekin Village is great. It's just a regular old land. It says, as Flamekin Village enters the battlefield, you may reveal an elemental card from your hand. If you don't, it enters tapped. It's part of a cycle where there's a bunch of these. I believe they're from Lorwyn, and they all have that text for each type of creature or whatever. And they all have different abilities, but Flamekin Village is probably the most relevant one. It taps to add red, but also you can pay red and tap it, and target creature gains haste until end of turn, which is really good. And actually, I'm going to talk about some other lands that do the same thing, and how good they are in Commander, because they are quite good.
Let's go on to some green ones. We got Colony Garden. Enters the battlefield tapped, produces green, but when it enters the battlefield, you get a 0/1 green plant creature token. If you like tokens, if you want to sack things, this is that. A little 0/1 body has a lot of utility, except for attacking.
Yeah, it can be good. It can be fine, and especially in stuff where you're running Avengers Zendikar, for example. That's an 0/1 plant. Just like the ones he makes.
Sure.
We also have Oran Reef the Vastwood, which enters tapped, can add green, and you can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that entered the battlefield this turn. This is huge in stuff like Azuri and like Sean said, token decks. It can be very, very good.
Yeah, it's interesting because it has no cost beyond tapping.
Yeah.
But when a land has to tap to do something, it's like it costs 1 mana because that's one less land you have to do other things with. So you can kind of imagine it costs 1 green to do that, but it has to be this land.
This one's really good also with stuff that untaps lands, because you just tap it.
True.
So if you had a few green creatures come in and you had whatever a couple of those creatures are, you can add a couple counters. Pretty decent in +1/+1 decks.
I should revisit the Tishana Dorks Tribal. I don't know if this was in there.
Oh, Dorks Tribal, yeah. Yeah, that'd work out.
A lot of untappers in there.
Yep. The next one?
Llanowar Reborn. Enters tapped, produces green, and has Graft 1. So it comes with 1 +1/+1 counter on it. So this land just lives with a counter. It can't attack or block unless you somehow make it a creature. But the way Graft works, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you can move that counter from this to the thing that just entered, including opponents if that is relevant in any way.
Yeah, same thing. Solid little guy. I mean, once in a while you add a +1/+1 counter something, and it can mean more than just adding a +1/+1 counter, right? It can. There's a lot of abilities that care about +1/+1 counters and what they do. So yeah, that's just an example of a couple of cards that you have utility. They're not all massive, huge effects or anything, but just an extra utility where you're not giving up a lot from your mana base to add them in, and that's why you find a lot of decks that include stuff like. Colony Garden, even though the only thing is it gives you an 0/1 plant. But you know what? Well, you have it come into play tapped. it's fine, right? You're not giving that much up to get that little bit of a bonus.
Not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, not at all. Like, I mean, like, just do the math, right? Like, how much room do you have for these things? How many ways do you have to fetch basics, right? Like, you need some basics in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Let's talk about some in general. There's a cycle of artifact lands. I'm going to highlight one here.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do with this part, I just want to talk about a couple of like little like cycle-y type things without getting into crazy detail. But yeah, let's take a look at these.
Oh, I think I skipped ahead on those. I moved them out of order.
No, that was me.
On
I just changed it.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do these first.
That makes sense. Great. So the good artifact lands. One example is Great Furnace, but these are lands that count as artifacts, and they tap for each respective color, and they don't come into play tapped. So you can get red right away or whatever color, and it counts as an artifact if you care about that.
Exactly. So there's obviously a ton of stuff that cares about this type of thing. And and so therefore, there you go. There's 5 ones that you can include right there. These are banned. These are famously banned in some other formats. But they're
are they banned? Banned in modern,
banned in
right?
modern, and they were banned in standard when they were out. I think.
Yes,
maybe.
They were.
Yeah.
They made Affinity too crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, but in Commander, their bonus is very reasonable and manageable, considering we're only allowed to have one of each of them. So yeah, but they're great in artifact decks. You can, if you ever need to like sack an artifact, sometimes sacking a Great Furnace or something like that is actually a fine move. So
Metalcraft, they're easy Metalcraft.
Yep, absolutely. They'll always add to that. So just keep an eye out for those, because I wanted to mention them because I always forget about them. I always forget about them. So there's your reminder that they exist.
Just watch out for Vandal Blast, right? Like sometimes if someone Vandal Blasts, don't forget you have a couple of those in your pile of lands.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Next is cycling lands. And these are obviously the utility here is pretty straightforward. They usually come into play tapped. They usually add the color of whatever they are, but then they also have a cost, in which case you can pay on Desert of the Indomitable, for example, 1 and a green, and you can cycle this card. You can discard it and draw a card. There are 3 cycles of these, right? We have the deserts currently. We have like the ones that do it for just for the one color that they make, like 1 green. You can cycle it, and then there's the ones that cost 2 generic to do it.
Yeah, I always run a cycle of these in the colors. One or the other, depending on if I'm running a ton of colors, I'll run the 2 cyclers, and if I'm running less colors, I'll run the 1 cyclers.
Oh, so you prefer? Yeah, I wanted to ask you this actually. You prefer the 2 colorless ones over the 1 color?
Depends how many colors my deck is. If it's 3 or less, I run the 1 color. If it's 4 or 5, I run the 2 colorless.
And do you run both at all?
I run both in monocolor.
Right.
I run all 3 in monocolor.
Right. And so I guess it goes easiest to cast is the 2, and then you have the 1, and then you have the 1 and the
I don't know where the deserts fit into this. I haven't run because I don't often have room for more than 1 cycle of cyclers.
Right.
And then the deserts don't usually make the cut because they have the drawback of having to have the color. So you might be off that color and be like, I can't cycle this.
Yeah. But do you want to cycle it if you're off the color, right?
Well, I just like having the option because if I'm running 4 or 5 colors, there's a real possibility that I'm short a color. So if I have a cycling land in green and I'm short my red, for example, I'm more likely to cycle that because I need red.
Yes. Yeah.
But if I had to have red to cycle it, I guess I would have the red then anyway, but I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, just talking about this right now, I never even really thought about it in that way. This is because we actually kind of don't think about these types of lands all that often. We talk about Commander all the time, but we never really get into it this deep with things like this. But it just kind of occurred to me that it's I'm not going to include the red land because if I don't have red, then I can't cycle it. It's well, wait a second. Why would I want to cycle it anyways? If I would just play it if I didn't have red because it's a red source, right? I honestly never even thought of that. Well, there you go. Now we can all think of that. But anyways, they're good. I think you run them more than I do, but I've definitely been running them a bit more than usual. I run them like crazy in monocolored decks and 2-color decks. It's just when it gets higher, I tend to, I don't know,
Fair.
favor like the the mana base, like the 2 colors and 3 colors and stuff like over them. Anyways,
Yep.
oh yeah, so this next thing is,
Yeah, you want to focus on some hasty lands.
yeah, exactly. This is not even like, this isn't like a cycle or anything, but there's just there's like a bunch of them that do this, and I just thought that was worth mentioning because they seem because every time I've used them, they're really great, and there's been so many games where I'm like, oh man, if I just had like Flamekin Village, I could just give this thing haste, and my opponent would be dead, like whatever. So why don't you read this one here that we're gonna highlight?
Yeah, we're gonna highlight one of them. Handwear Battlements. It's taps to add colorless, or red tap. Target creature gains haste until end of turn, or 3 red tap. If you both own and control Handwear Battlements and Handwear Garrison, you get to meld them into Handwear the Writhing Township, which is that.
It's like the meld card.
Yeah, right. And so it's the 2 there. So like I always find myself like, if I'm running red, Flamekin Village, as we discussed, always goes in. And then I often will put Handwear Battlements in too. And at that point, I'm just like, well, I might as well throw in the Handwear Garrison. Because like there's a chance I'll get them both out there.
Yeah, that's right. I did want to just quickly mention Hall of the Bandit Lord also.
Okay.
Just because it's a legendary land that comes into play tapped, and you tap it and pay 3 life. You can add 1 mana to your mana pool, and if that mana is spent on a creature, that creature gets haste. So
Yeah,
this
that's
is one
tricky.
that's like, it's like this one will go a little easier in the non-red decks, obviously, and like the sort of five color lands, because it doesn't require a specific color. Obviously, it's a little harder on the old mana base because it requires it doesn't produce colored mana, and you need to pay 3 life for it. But I just wanted to mention it because this one's like kind of the weirdo of the group.
Yeah.
in
Also
what it
very
does.
expensive.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow,
like,
it's like
approaching $10.
Yeah, wow. Okay, well there you go. Now you know why we don't talk about it very often.
Mm.
But I saw it in this and was like, oh, that's a neat card. Like, yeah, I can see why it's like wanted. You know, it seems good.
Yeah.
Especially in EDH, we can pay that 3 life, no problem. But yeah, so anyways, those are haste lands. I think haste is kind of an underrated ability, and when you can get something like that on a land, I think it's like pretty important, pretty good to talk about.
Yeah, so and then let's another category of lands that are utility are creature lands that can turn into creatures of some sort.
Man lands.
Well, we're trying to change, we're trying to take the gender out of them so that we're not like, excluding anyone. We don't know what gender they
No,
are.
Sean, they're all men. No, you're right. Good call.
I personally am not a fan of them. In Commander, I think most of them are way overcosted for what they do, and I find myself never activating them because I've got better things to do with my 6 or 5 mana.
Agreed.
I will say, like, maybe there's an exception for like maybe Lumbering Falls. It's the blue-green one that turns into a 3/3 hexproof. Which seems, like maybe there's a world where like you want a hexproof. And although I didn't put it in the tabs, I think Hissing Quagmire that turns into a Death Toucher. I think that on the threat of activation on defense is something that makes that kind of worthwhile. But for the most part, I'm like, I really don't care about getting this 4/4 flyer just to do a little bit of extra damage by spending that much.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's Hissing Quagmire, I think, is my favorite of them, just because it has the potential to affect the board, right? Like it has the potential to like trade for something.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's really. Oh, you know what? There's a what's the black white one called again? I don't remember.
The lifelink.
Yeah, the black white one gets lifelink, and I think that in black-white, like life gain cares decks, like that's fine to run.
I just feel
sometimes you just sometimes I know, like for example, in my Karlov deck, like sometimes you just want a life gain trigger for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and I think it's just like it's easy to include it. It's just another guild gate that sometimes has a little added upside.
Yeah, right. I mean, like if you're okay with that, it comes in the battlefield tapped, and you have no intention of ever activating it. But like there's gonna be like one in 25 games where you find a good reason to activate it. Like if you can afford that little bit like it's the same as cut a basic dual land, cut the one that gains you 1 life and put that in. It's like
Yeah.
maybe it does you better in the long run. I don't know.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
It just comes down to budget, right? Some of the old Zendikar World Wake era ones are quite expensive. So
yes. And real quick, also the hideaway lands.
I think I forgot to put that in the tabs.
Do you remember the name of one of them?
Yeah, Wind Brisk Heights.
Wind Brisk Heights. There you go. Yeah, that's the white one. Hideaway, of course, is the ability that this land enters the battlefield tapped. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest of on the bottom of your library, and they tap also to add the color, so that's good. These guys will tap to add white, obviously blue, black, green, red. Then you pay 1 of whatever color it produces, so you pay white and tap Wind Brisk Heights. You may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if you attacked with 3 or more creatures this turn, and that's the white one. The green one is you need to have like 10 power on the field or something.
Yeah.
The red one is you need to have dealt some amount of damage, right?
7.
Yeah. The blue one is the worst one for commander because it needs to have a library with 20 or less cards in it.
Very difficult,
I think. And I do not even know what the black one does. Probably something with your graveyard.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, no idea. No idea what that does.
Howl Tooth Hollow. Each player has to have no cards in hand.
Okay, yeah, right?
That'll never happen.
That'll just never happen. So I take it back. The black one is the worst one for commander. The blue one is second worst. But actually, I think that the green one and the white one can be good. I think they can be very good. Red one is a little bit more in the air, but I think it's still playable. But like I actually especially in like big green decks, I think the green one can be very good. You can end up paying like red tap and get a Crater Hoof Behemoth or a some other massive creature that you'd spend 8 or 9 mana for or something like that.
And your opponents don't know, right? Your opponents don't know what it is. So like even if you kind of whiff, and we're back onto it's just like they tap for the color that they all have a color on them. So it's not like you can substitute a basic for them, right? Like we're back in the territory of like you need to just figure out how much room for that you have, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So now we want to talk about some cards. I think this is like a little bit more the meat of the real hard utility lands, I think. Stuff that has they have like abilities on them that are just like basically spells, right? These are spells on cards we're talking here. And first, here's what I'm going to mention this. The Ravnica Guild lands, they all have an activated ability on them that has to do with the 2 colors that they are. So the Izzet one will have, for example, I think it's like 2 red, blue, and it does something, right? And they all have varying costs for them. Some of them are good. Some of them are totally garbage. We wanted to just briefly mention 1 or 2 that we thought were playable and that we've seen play and that maybe we ourselves have played, right? So first one I'll go is Novigen, Heart of Progress. It's the Simic one, and they all do this. They all tap to add a colorless, and then they have another activated ability. This one is green-blue, and tap it, and you can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that enter the battlefield this turn. Very similar to what was it? Oran Reef.
Oran Reef, yeah.
But this one is just each creature. So again, very good in token decks and things like that.
Yeah, another one from that sort of cycle that's good is Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion. It's the Boros one. Taps for colorless or 2 red-white. Tap. Target creature gains double strike again until end of turn. I mean, if your red-white decks tend to want to attack, so having an option to grab double strike at instant speed really makes combat difficult for your opponents.
For sure, and like a big commander that includes red, white in its activated ability or in its cost, obviously, is I think like a Voltron commander loves this card.
Oh yeah.
In general, the other ones are not great. The green white one's okay, but it's like you have to pay like 4 to make a 1/1 Saproling.
Yeah, it's a bit overcosted.
Yeah, the Skarg one is just another creature land, or sorry, not Skarg. The Golgari one. Skarg is the Gruul one.
Oh, I do think though the Gruul one is interesting.
Yeah, it
Can you
is,
pull up
yeah.
the Gruul one
Yep.
for a second?
Yep.
Because let's see what it is.
Skarg is... Oh, there it is. Skarg the Rage Pits. It taps to add colorless. You can pay, and then you pay red green and tap it. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn.
Yeah, I mean it's not a like the +1/+1 until end of turn is not very significant, but giving a creature trample certainly is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in those colors you probably want to do that a lot, and only spending 2 to do so isn't a bad deal.
Yep.
Because we're going to talk about another land that does something very similar to this,
Mm-hmm.
that is better at every other mana cost except this one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just, I mean, in general, these are decent because they come in, they're basically free little spells you get to have sitting around on the battlefield with you.
Yeah.
Let's move on to these other ones that we want to talk about.
Sure. Colorless ones, or the ones with like, I'm out of order on the tabs. Are we going just straight forward?
right up here. The
I see where you are.
The color identity ones.
Yeah, great. So these ones, we're going to talk about some spelly lands that have color identity, right? They cannot go on every deck, but most of them wouldn't anyway because they're on a theme, and those themes tend to play into those colors. So Gavany Township, it's a land, 1 colorless, or 2 green-white, tap, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. It didn't have to enter the battlefield this turn.
Exactly.
But like if you're in a token deck, which green-white decks tend to be, there's a lot of them in those colors. This card is amazing, and it's creeping up there. It's above $5.
Yeah, this one does get a little bit of play outside of Commander and things. I think. The one you were talking about earlier, the trampling one, is Kessig Wolfrun. Both of these cards from Innistrad, actually. This one taps to add colorless, and you can pay X, red, green, tap. Target creature gets +X/+O and gains trample until end of turn. So again, this is just another way to get a big monster that doesn't have trample. This gives it to him. This can also just make anything a monster with trample as well. So this is a very good card in Commander, I think.
Yeah, because X can equal 0. So just for red-green, it's the same as Rage Pits, but Rage Pits gives you a little bump in power and toughness. But overall, Kessig Wolf can turn any creature into nearly a lethal threat. So if you just have a ton of big dudes that you want to give trample to, I think run both of them.
Yeah, I think so too. If you're in those colors, you might as well.
Let's talk about Keep. It's a simple one. Add colorless or 1 in a red. You get a 0/1 red kobold creature. If you like tokens, run that card.
If you like sack fodder, run this card, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Simple stuff, but actually, again, you're not giving up too much to have an ability that just you can pop out a little chump blocker or some sack fodder. It's great.
Right. Like we've discussed, right? Like depending on the number of colors in your deck, you have room for, 4 or 5, maybe up to 8 or 9 colorless cards. And if that's your priority, that will be one of your colorless ones.
Next, we have Slayer's Stronghold. This is another one that gives haste, but it's got a little more to it. It taps to add colorless mana, pay red, white, and tap. Target creature gets +2/+O, gains vigilance and haste until end of turn. So
pretty decent.
Yeah, pretty decent. You have a little bit more of a cost there, but it's a pretty good payoff.
Yeah. Let's talk about Vault of the Archangel. Black-white adds colorless or 2 black-white. Creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. Even if you don't really want a lot of life gain, if you're an attacking deck, that ability alone is a huge swing in life total.
This is a great card for attacking, for defending. I mean, Death Touch and Lifelink can get you right back in the game when it comes to, if you're behind, you swing in with everybody, you do this, and then you wrath. Like, I mean, that can just get you right back in a game that you were
right
very
back
much out of, right?
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've definitely seen that happen. Where like, okay, I have one big creature. I have no hope of winning right now, but I'm just going to activate Vault of the Archangel, gain 20 life. You chump block with a 1/1. Who cares? Like, just go. So yeah, I like this card a lot. I've been throwing this in a lot of white-black decks as of late.
Rightly so.
Another one is Westvale Abbey. This technically is a black card because of the other side of it, but
right.
It taps to add generic mana. You pay 5, tap it, and pay a life, and you get a 1/1 human cleric. on the battlefield. And then you can pay 5, tap it, and sack 5 creatures and transform Westvale Abbey into Ormondal, Profane Prince. He's a legendary demon with flying, lifelink, indestructible haste. He's a 9/7. This guy's tough to deal with even in Commander.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Indestructible, 9/7 flying with haste also, don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, if you're running that, any of the black decks that want to sack a bunch of little tokens, a bunch of little dudes, I mean, I think this is just an auto include. It's a solid card.
Yeah, man. Don't forget, it is a black card though because of the back.
Exactly, it has to go in a deck that has a black color identity.
Yeah, I almost made that mistake.
Yeah, I think a lot of players do that actually.
Green white decks want to run it, but you can't.
Sorry.
Another spelly land, Yavimaya Hollow adds a colorless or for green and tap, regenerate target creature. Very useful ability. It is a pricey card though. Like this is out of our budget for sure. This is almost $25.
This is an expensive card, but I really wanted to mention it because it's so simple. And a lot of people will tell you like how regenerate isn't like that good in Commander especially, but you put it on a land and look what happens. Like this card is crazy. This card is super expensive, but it doesn't seem like it has that much of an effect, but it really can in games. It can save very important creatures, all this kind of stuff, obviously, right? So
big time.
Also, it has a bunch of dinosaurs on it, I think. They look like dinosaurs. So that's relevant to now.
Yeah, right. We like dinosaurs these days.
We like dinosaurs. Like they should reprint this card. This card doesn't have any you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Give us this in a Commander set.
In a Commander set, right? Yeah. Like obviously they're done with regeneration in standard environment.
Yeah. But put this in a Commander set. Put this in an Iconic Masters. What are you guys doing over there?
What are you doing?
This card's silly. This card's so nothing. Like they could print it easily. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Where are we?
Not all of these cards are budget. Most of them are, but some of them do come in over $5. Some of them are over $20, like this one. But anyways,
I think that's the most expensive one where we got it.
I think so too. Now we're talking about colorless lands. We want to talk about lands that are straight up colorless. They have no color identity, so they can go in any deck.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about paying a specific color for their activation.
Sure.
This one, we'll start with one. It's Endless Sands. This is a recent one. You add colorless with a tap, but you can also pay 2 and tap it to exile target creature you control. And then you can pay 4 and tap it to sack Endless Sands and return each creature card exiled with Endless Sands to the battlefield under its owner's control. There's a couple of lands that do this, actually. In the kind of research for this episode, I found at least 2, maybe 3 or 4 lands that do this, and they always have to do with shelter. It's like they're always called something shelter or whatever. Like they're always saving whatever creatures, right? Because you can kind of do this in response to board wipe and things like that.
Yeah.
I've never run any of these lands, but I don't know. I definitely see the value in them though.
It comes down to how much room do you have for your colorless lands, and what ones do you want to run? If you have some room, like we said, in a monocolored deck, you have room for quite a few. And if you're only running 3, I'll say put a few more in. Put in an Endless Sands. If it's a sort of a mana sink in case. If you end up not spending all your mana, you have a couple colorless open, a couple mana open. It doesn't hurt to have it lying around just in case, like you said, a board wipe comes up. Someone tries to remove a creature, put it under the Endless Sands. Will you ever have time to crack it open and get those creatures back? Maybe not, but you haven't lost anything for it. I think it's just one of those opportunity lands that we're not going to plan around it, but it wouldn't hurt to add it if you have the room.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think there's actually something to be said in putting a good creature under an Endless Sands in response to something, whether it's a board wipe or another kill or something, and then having it sit under your Endless Sands and then having your opponent sweat about you using your Endless Sands. It's that threat of activation could be enough to coax some other good cards out of their hands or force them to make a mistake or something. You know what I mean? If you got an Elish Norn under your Endless Sands, they're going to be thinking about that, they're going to use their land removal on it. And it's okay, well, I never even meant to I wasn't going to use this anyways. So that might somehow work in your favor is what I'm saying here. What's next?
We got Buried Ruin, taps for colorless, or 2 and tap, sacrifice Buried Ruin, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. If you're an artifact deck, you probably want to run this. If you have a few artifacts that sacrifice themselves, we'll talk about one key one in a land deck. It's the map one. I forget, but like Expedition Map. You don't have to be exclusively artifacts. Like, a lot of decks run a lot of artifacts. Artifacts get destroyed. Same argument. If you have room for colorless and you're not taking advantage of it, throw in a Buried Ruin for getting back your Commander's Sphere, even if you're not an artifact-heavy deck.
I gotta say, one of my favorite things about running a Duretti as a commander and running a mono-red artifact deck is that you have like all the freedom in the world to run as many colorless lands as you want. So you get so many great utility lands, and it doesn't hurt your mana base at all because most of that deck is colorless, and then there's a couple things that are red, and you have, I got more than enough space for the red cards in there, or the red lands in there rather. So you're just running so many great utility lands, and Buried Ruin, you get space for stuff like Buried Ruin, which again, small effect, but you know what? Having it in there is like having another spell. It's great.
Yeah.
Next is Gaia Reach Sanitarium. This is a legendary land from Shadows over Innistrad. Or wait, Eldritch Moon rather, sorry. Tap to add colorless, and then you can pay 2 and tap it. Each player draws a card, then discards a card. Tiny wheel.
Yeah, party
loot. Yeah, party loot is great. Loot bags. Yeah. Simple,
useful.
Right?
Might as well. It comes in handy.
If you ever run Temple Bell, play Gaia Reach Sanitarium too. Same basic thing. Yep.
Inventor's Fair is another one. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 3 or more artifacts, let's remind ourselves about those artifact lands. You gain 1 life, taps for colorless, and you can pay 4 in sack to search for an artifact card, put it into your hand. You have to reveal it as well, and then shuffle, tutor up an artifact. But you have to control 3 or more artifacts to make that work. Artifact deck wants this big time.
Big time. Even some decks that are not artifacts probably could make use of this, depending on how heavy you are in it. But this is a great card. Next, we have Mirror Pool. This is one that we talked a lot about when it first came out, and I kind of haven't really seen hide nor hair of it since. And it was also a lot of money when it first came out, and it's dropped down a lot. I think maybe we were
forgetting about it.
Yeah, well, I think we were like all very stoked about it, and then like maybe the people who did get into it were like, it's not as good as we thought, but it's definitely still a decent land. Here it is, Mirror Pool. Okay, first of all, it enters the battlefield tapped. It taps to produce colorless mana, and for 2 and a colorless, that's also one thing, right? That's like the 6th color, really. That now you need a colorless. Tap it. So 2 and a colorless and tap. Sacrifice Mirror Pool, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. All right. And then you can pay 4 and a colorless and tap it, sack Mirror Pool, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature you control. Right? So it's like the Riku land, right? You get to double up a spell or double up a creature. I think those colorless activations, I mean, you only need one other colorless thing to be able to do it. Like, it's not like it's that demanding. You know what I mean?
Right. And if we're coming at it from the point of view like the other ones, where it's like, we're not going to do this turn 1 or 2, and we can't, right? Like, if we want to copy a spell, it has to be a spell or instant, a sorcery or instant that you control. Mm-hmm. So it adds effectively 4 mana to the cost of that spell. The 3 plus this land's tapping. Yeah. So, like, you're not going to play that early. I'm for sure you have a colorless source by that point.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a good card. I'm sure it can be very helpful in certain situations, but it's not like crazy overpowered or anything. It's just,
yeah,
it's just what it is. It's a spell that does either of those things that just sits for free at, minimal cost depending on what's going on in your deck.
It starts to get tempting, right? Like, all these cards just add a little bit of value here or there, possible value, but you can't just go hog wild on it. Like, you have to cap it.
Yeah, you do. You really do. And I guess maybe that's why Mirror Pool, we're seeing the price go down, and we haven't really seen it. It hasn't entered our meta yet anyways. I mean, let us know if do you have a deck with Mirror Pool in it and it's just crushing? Who knows? All right, what's next?
Oh, Nephalia Academy. It's a land. If a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard a card, you may reveal that card and put it on top of your library instead of putting it anywhere else. This is going to be strictly meta dependent.
Yeah.
If you've got a meta with a couple of heavy discard decks and it just makes you so mad, then run in the Thalia Academy.
You know what's kind of interesting? If you're running a person who wants to try and mill you with like wheels and like windfalls and stuff.
Yeah,
This blanks that.
It blanks an opponent's wheel because you just put them all back on top and then you just draw them.
That's right. So I mean, that's just like a little bit of a plus. This one I thought would be a little more. I don't know. For some reason, I thought it'd be more useful than it is when it first came out. But like, yeah, how often are people making you discard? If the answer to that is a lot, then you should play this card probably.
Yeah.
Of course, this is an all timer right here. Reliquary Tower. It's just a land that taps for colorless and says you have no maximum hand size.
Yeah.
This is a very big staple in EDH, I'd say, particularly for, obviously, decks that want to draw a lot of cards. But generally, you can put this one in at minimal cost as well. It's a good one.
And don't forget with Reliquary Tower, if you have like X draw spells, don't play your land first, right? Because oftentimes I'll play my land so I can get one more card. I'll draw these cards. Oh, I drew Reliquary Tower. Would have been nice to drop this now.
Yeah.
And
I've done that so many times.
Yeah,
or even you're like in certain decks, you're like, oh, okay, I got to find one of my things that gives me no maximum hand size. So I'll pay for all the draw. And then, I already played my land. Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on. We got Scavenger Grounds. This is a pretty new one. It's from Hour of Devastation. It's a desert. Taps to add colorless and 2-tap. Sacrifice a desert itself. Or maybe another one if you have those cycling deserts. Exile all cards from all graveyards. Hitting graveyards is a very useful ability. They're giving us a lot more options to do that in recent sets.
Yes. Yeah, they are, and it's a very important thing to include in Commander, especially on a land. Just getting that for free is great.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Bojuka Bog only hits one player, so the drawback there is there's a few other players who still get graveyards. The drawback of Scavenger Grounds is it hits your own as well. So if you are also a graveyard deck, you got to be really careful when you use it.
This card's $1.50, and I think that is because it's being run in standard right now a little bit, and that's I think to hit stuff like
I don't know.
I think it's to hit like the search for
all the
Escantas
embalms
and stuff, and all the embalms. Like it does a lot of stuff that does a lot of work with graveyards and standards. Is Scavenger Grounds is doing a good job of trying to keep control of it. But this card should be. I think this card has the ability to become a true EDH staple.
I think so too, because it goes in every deck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's easy for black decks to deal with graveyard with Bojuka Bog, but other decks need things like Relic of Progenitus, which costs mana, right? Mm-hmm. Or Tormod's Crypt, which is free, but it only hits one person.
Yeah, and it's an artifact. This one, it comes on a land. You can put this down and wait until you need it. It's great.
Yeah.
Anyways, so maybe this one will drop after rotation, and us Commander players will buy a bunch of them.
I hope so.
This one is not a cheap one again, but just a good one to talk about, I think.
Yeah. Strip Mine. Taps to add colorless or sacrifice Strip Mine, destroy target land. Land destruction on lands. There's a handful of these that have more restrictions if you want to save some budget on that effect.
Tectonic Edge. Ghost Quarter.
There's lots of ways to do that on lands. Pick your favorite as needed on budget.
Yeah, and Strip Mine isn't that expensive actually. This is under 10. You can find this for under $10. You can get the 4th edition one for $7. So it's not. I always think it's way more than that, and then someone always is like, "Oh man, look." This is obviously another Commander staple. We rarely talk about it again because it's $7 card and it's a land, so we never talk. We barely talk about lands in general. But if you have Strip Mine, I mean, this is just a killer card. This is the anti-utility card, right? This is the one that's there to take out other utility lands. So
Yeah, for my money, I'm probably gonna run Ghost Quarter first because that's $1.50. Uh, the only restriction there is it can't hit like it can't it has to hit a not. Oh no, it can hit any land, but they get to replace it with a basic.
Yeah,
Which, and for our purposes, we're not here to keep their lands down. Most likely, we're here to stop utility lands.
totally. Ghost Quarter is basically just as good. Definitely. And after that, we have another one that's a little pricier. We're talking 10 or 12 bucks here. But I mean, the utility is undeniable. It's Vesuva. And as it comes into play, you may choose a land in play. If you do, Vesuva comes into play tapped as a copy of the chosen land. So it just copies a land, but it comes in tapped.
And apparently, if you don't choose a land in play, it's a land that can't do anything.
Yeah, you may have. Well, the Oracle text is you may have Vesuva enter the battlefield tapped as a copy of any land on the battlefield. So it has the clone text essentially.
Right, but the fact that it's a may means you can be like, no,
You
I'm not
can
going
just
to do
like,
it.
No, I just
It's
want it to
just
be
a land.
I just want it to be Vesuva. Right? I just want it to be itself. It's, you know what?
Yeah.
I believe in Vesuva, and the important thing is if you do that for some reason, it does not tap for mana.
Nope.
Is a land that does not tap for mana otherwise.
No.
Is there anything else that does this? Yes, there is. We'll talk about it in a bit. There's other lands that do similar things. All right.
Well, okay. So those are some colorless lands that have spell-like effects. Now, typically, we're not going to spend a lot of time on lands that ramp you or lands that do color fixing or just double and that sort of thing. But I just do want to give note because a lot of people talk about this. The Temple of the False God. This is the land that taps for 2 colorless. It activate only if you control 5 or more lands. Somewhere around someone put the I don't know where this came from. Some people started talking about this like maybe this is not a great land for commander because of the feel bads of when you have less than 5 lands and now it taps for nothing. But I don't know, pro or con, I'm still pro this card. I still put it in decks because being able to get extra mana out of a land is amazing. And if it's my 4th land, yeah, that's not ideal. But more often than not, it's not my 4th land.
Yeah, it does feel bad when it's one of the ones in there, but like I just treat it as though like I didn't draw a land then, like you know what I mean. But if I draw it after the 5, I love it.
Yeah, right. And even if you do get it, like you have 3 lands in your opening hand, and one of them is Temple, and you're just like, well, I'm gonna keep it. Maybe you draw 1 or 2 more, but like that, all that does is it makes your 5th land tap for 2.
Yeah,
tap for 3.
I
right?
like it, and like there's obviously there's like opportunity cost for lots of things, and like you know, this card is a dead card if X doesn't happen, and so on. But I think that this one, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't happen that often that this card is just sitting there dead. It does, and yeah, it sucks. But like, I don't know. That happens to a lot of cards. I'm for it. I am too. I like it.
Commander's Brew, pro Temple of the False God.
Or pro Temple of the False God. I even like running this in like 3-color decks. I don't mind.
Yep. So then let's talk about some cards that like specifically tutor up non-basics. There's 100 million ways to get basic lands, but we want to get these utility lands for a reason, for the utility. So we're going to highlight a few cards that are not lands that help us get these non-basics. Most of them are green. Tempt with Discovery. We all know this one. 3 and a green. Tempting Offer. So you search for any land card, put it onto the battlefield. Each opponent gets to do that too, and if they do, you get to match them with another land from your deck. We all know that all the tempt cards should not be do not be tempted by tempt cards. Force your opponent to spend 4 mana to get a single non-basic. But it is a well-named mechanic because it is very tempting. It is very tempting.
Oh man, always say no. Always say no.
Always say no, but people always say yes.
People always say yes. It's the worst.
It's the worst.
Yeah, Temple Discovery is a good one. Next is Expedition Map, like you mentioned. It's one generic for an artifact. You pay 2 and tap it to sack it, and search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand.
Yep. Useful, right? Like there's one of the few ways to get a non-basic from an artifact there. Great add. I like crop rotation. It's a green instant for a single green. You have to sacrifice a land, but then you get to replace it by tutoring up a land and putting it onto the battlefield. So it turns any land into any utility land.
And finally, we have Sylvan Scrying, which I think is like the budget version of. I mean, crop rotation is not. It's like $1 or something. Sylvan Scrying is 20 cents. So it's 1 and a green. Search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library.
Yeah.
This will just get it. Get that one land that you really need or you really want in those specific situations. Obviously, this can also like help you fix a bit too. So like I think these cards are all pretty solid, pretty good, and depending on the number of utility lands and how your mana base is worked out, obviously, I think that a whole episode goes by that. This card could be very, very good in a deck like this. There's also a quick one I wanted to mention just very, very quickly is Ulvenwald Hydra.
Oh, yes. I forgot about Ulvenwald Hydra.
It's like Ulvenwald Hydra is the 6 mana star with reach. Its power toughness is equal to lands, and when it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a land card, just any land, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So you get it out. With Ulvenwald Hydra, I think we said it's like prime time and light. Only happens only happens when it enters, but still not bad.
Yeah, right. Any land is very useful.
So Sean, those are basically a pretty like loose overview of a lot of the mostly budget utility lands available to us. However, you might notice we have left out a couple of key ones, and that's because we want to talk about our favorite staple non-basics, our utility lands that we like as players that we actually put in our real decks. So let's talk about that.
Okay, you want to start with some of yours, Andy?
Sure, okay.
Okay.
This is the one that I think I use this one the most.
Yeah. You mean in the most of your decks or the most in our meta? Because definitely the most in our meta. But do you have it in most of your decks?
I think it's because I have it in most of my decks. This one is Arcane Lighthouse. It's you tap to add 1 colorless, and then you pay 1 and tap it until end of turn. Creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and shroud and can't have hexproof or shroud. I always actually kind of forget about that, but yeah. So it doesn't target. It just happens. They can't stop it. Well, they can technically if they have like Stifle or something, but it's pretty hard to stop it. Hexproof and Shroud gone, and they can't have it for until the end of turn. This card is essential especially if you have a commander that targets other creatures. It does stuff to other creatures. That's when I started running it and was like, oh, I just need this in everything. Forget about so too many times. You're stuck with like a Swords to Plowshares in your hand, and you just have no way to destroy the boots. You have no way to destroy the boots or the greaves or any. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the boots.
So yeah, that's Arcane Lighthouse is one of my favorite lands because it takes care of Narset. It takes care of so many other commanders that you gotta get rid of them.
Lazav.
Oh, Lazav, hexproof. Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Oh, anyone who's playing against like. What's her face there? The angel, the green-white angel, who's a very good Voltron commander, has hexproof.
Oh,
Sigarda.
Bruna? Sigarda.
Sigarda, right? She has hexproof? No.
Yeah, Sigarda's green.
Is it?
Sigarda's green and white. Wait, which one? Now I don't know.
Oh, no, sorry. It's not the angel. It's not Sigarda. She does have hexproof, actually. So, yes, that is who I'm thinking of. Sigarda, and then there's also, like, what's the Uriel, the Mistwalker. He has hexproof. Like those types of commanders are crazy powerful, and Arcane Lighthouse really takes care of them. I'll do my next one too, right? We'll do it this way.
Sure, why not?
Okay. Yeah. So we talked about Vesuva briefly, which is like the expensive version. I mean, this card's not cheap exactly, but it's a little more closer to our budget. It's Thespian Stage. So this one taps to add a colorless, and then you pay 2 and tap it, and it becomes a copy of target land, and it gains this ability. So you can always change it. And it taps for colorless. This card's around $250 right now, and I think it was higher than that a little while ago. I feel like it was.
I don't know.
I feel like it was getting played in some modern deck, and it drove the price up. But I think maybe something got banned in that deck. Correct me if I'm wrong, everybody. Anyways, Thespian Stage is around 250, so that's right in our wheelhouse. That's fine. And this card is great. It can. I think the most common thing it does is copy bounce lands.
Yeah, or Temple of the False Gods, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll just copy some 2-mana land, something that's adding 2 mana. But also again, this is the best utility land on the battlefield, right? You can copy an Arcane Lighthouse. That's great. Now you have one, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, this and it can change if you don't like it being that. Now you need, you want it to switch it over to something else. You can still do it. So it's really great.
It'll always be useful.
Yeah, it really will, and it's really good. And yeah, man, scoop them up. And finally, this one, so happy this one started to get reprinted in recent Commander sets because it's so useful. It's high market. Tap to add 1 colorless to your mana pool, and you can also tap and sacrifice a creature, and you gain 1 life. You just don't know how valuable sacrificing a creature is until you need to use it with your so you need to use it from high market. Like most games, I think. In most decks, high market is just a colorless land, and that's kind of it. And maybe you might sack a creature in response to a board wipe or something to gain a life. But there are some like key moments where someone's going to steal your commander, someone's going to steal some creature, something. They're going to do something to it that you just can't let that happen, and so then high market comes to the rescue. And,
I don't run enough sack outlets. I should put high market in every deck.
Basically a free one, and yes, you should put it in every deck, especially because you can get this card for under $1.
Yeah.
And that's very good because this card used to be way more than that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's under $1. It's very, very useful. Man, love high market.
Yeah, I'm sold.
Those are like my 3.
I have more than 3, but I'll go quicker.
But we already said this one.
That's true. Great.
There you go.
So I have 3. One of my faves, I end up putting this in basically every deck because I like creatures. Rogue's Passage. Taps for colorless or 4-tap. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. I don't run a ton of Voltron decks, but I do run a lot of decks that just have a lot of big creatures that want to hit. And being able to be like, well, this thing can hit for 10. That's very significant.
Yep.
Like if you need that to happen, no one can just gum up the ground and eventually win. This gives you a certain amount of inevitability. I love this card. Mm-hmm. I also love Throne of the High City. Oh, I love this card. Also 4. It taps for colorless or 4-tap, sacrifice Throne of the High City. You become the Monarch. I'm a huge fan of the Monarch. I want to get it in every game. So, and I'll admit, sometimes I make myself the Monarch when it's not strategically optimal. But I think the games are way better with it. So good.
I just want to say about Rogue's Passage that I think like running Rogue's Passage in just about any commander deck where the commander's power is like 4 or greater is like kind of just makes a lot of sense, right?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like just being able to like, okay, well, if nothing else, maybe I can Rogue's Passage my commander enough to kill someone.
Yeah.
Anyways, just wanted to mention that because I just think that base level, like there's that value to it.
And there's the psychology of Rogue's Passage too, right? Like, because like when a player gets down to like less than 15 life, like, and you have a Rogue's Passage, they have to do what you say, kind of, because it's like they're like I could take 8 off your life total anytime I want. So be careful.
That's true.
So I talked about Throne of High City. How about Homeward Path? This is you have Arcane Lighthouse. This is my one of that. This is a land that taps for colorless or tap. Each player gains control of all creatures he or she owns. I hate when people steal my stuff.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Definitely.
So I tap this and I get my stuff back. Right?
Each player gets all their stuff back.
Each player, right? Yeah. If someone tries an insurrection, right, I'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to Homeward Path. We're going to get all our stuff back at the beginning of combat. If you have a sack outlet, that'll still do its thing. But I mean, at least you're not going to get to attack us with it.
Yeah, I got an even better one for you. How about someone else casts Rise of the Dark Realms? They get all of your stuff back on the battlefield, and then you just go, thank you, and then you just get everything back.
Right. I also, like there's like we all know expropriate is a lethal card, right? Where people get to take stuff. But if you have a homeward path, you could just be like, okay, table, we're all gonna let our opponent take a thing from us. Can they take lands? Could they take your homeward path?
I believe they can.
Oh, then that doesn't work.
Well, you can play your homeward path after. Like that's what I was thinking with Rise of the Dark Realms. Like they cast Rise, then you can just like drop it down, take it back. That's if you don't already have it out. You probably already have it out in those games, and
you probably do,
right?
And if you're not sandbagging it, right, like then you have to draw it after an expropriate. Okay, so expropriate is still scary, but
yeah, it's very scary.
Yeah,
but homeward path is without a doubt like a super important land. Like it's very, very good because of that.
Might be my favorite
because it just like it they might have a mind control in their hand, and they just go, well, like. This card is dead to me. This card is nothing because he has a homeward path, right? Like,
yeah, and it adds negotiation power. Like let's say your opponent does cast an insurrection, and they have all the creatures. You don't have to tap it yet. You could just be like, all right, man, you just tell me where you're sending those creatures. If any come at me, we're all getting them back. But if none of them come at me, I'll let that attack go through.
Oh, it's so bad. Yeah, sure, man. Kill everybody else except me. I won't use it. I won't use it at the end of, I won't use it in, response or whatever. Yeah, homeward path, great one. We had some also sent in through our Patreon Discord chat. Is that right?
Yeah, so I just as a reminder, that's our latest kind of reward thing. It's actually the thing that I think is the funnest. All of our patrons have access to like our sort of patrons only Discord chat, and we got all kinds of cool chats going on. People are throwing deck ideas up there that are like just like, hey, I had this deck idea. People are throwing some great ideas. We're throwing some ideas in there too when we have the time, when we catch them, because they go pretty quick. But like, it's all what we do. We put the deck topic and like a deck list, our sort of first draft deck list, up on the Patreon to get a discussion going in advance, because we found that a lot of people give us great ideas for decks after the episode comes out. So why not give the people the credit for it and put it in the episode you're listening to, so you can just listen to them right now. And like, let me tell you, I never heard of this card before. This one's from Dante Informal. This is Tower of the Magistrate. You want to talk about what was this is a cousin, I suppose, of your Arcane Lighthouse. Tap to add one colorless, or 1 in a tap. Target creature gains protection from artifacts until end of turn. So, if you'd use this on any creature, they won't be able to equip artifacts to them. I guess it doesn't take away hexproof because you can't target them, but it's crazy for like if someone's wearing a couple of swords, then you can be like, yeah, all your swords fall off. It's like, okay. Yeah,
that's right. And you can do it in response to someone trying to equip, like you said. And anything Brea's trying to do, you can stop that.
Yeah.
Tower of the Magistrate is definitely something to think about.
Definitely.
Again, a little like, maybe it's not, but like it seems like it's a little meta dependent, perhaps. But like, yeah, maybe it's just not. Maybe it's just there to stop boots and greaves and things like that.
Yeah, right. Because like you always win. Tower of the Magistrate always wins because they have their boots, and then they're like, I guess I'll try to equip them. It's like, okay, I will give that creature protection from artifacts. They can equip the boots on something else afterwards, but that will have protection until end of turn, so their turn will end, and the main target won't be wearing boots. You'll get to untap before they'll get another turn.
Yeah. Seems good.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's like the offensive version of it, but there's also like so many defensive implications of it as well. Like, giving, someone's attacking you with a bunch of, mirrors or thopters or whatever, and you're just, you give your guys protection from, you give one guy protection from artifacts or whatever. I don't know.
I think someone was saying that they gave a creature that so that they could stand up to a Blightsteel Colossus.
Right, yeah. Yeah, just take a bunch of that damage and let yourself live through it or whatever.
Yeah.
We got another one here, and this one was from Boas. Or is that Boas or Boas?
I've been pronouncing it Boas.
Okay, Boas. It's Ghost Town. This one's from Tempest, and you tap to add a colorless mana, or you can pay 0, return Ghost Town to its owner's hand, and activate this ability only if it's not your turn.
Yeah, so if you've got any sort of landfall,
Yeah.
this card is amazing.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. You get that late in the game, and you just want to just have those lands hit. Ghost Town's a good one for you, for sure.
And so we've had a special request, right? You know, we haven't done a lot of Commander's burns recently. We kind of burnt out on them, no pun intended. But Fun Titan requested a burn on Oasis, which is a land that doesn't tap for mana. It only taps to prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn. It doesn't do anything. And then a couple people in the Discord, we were doing a little burn sesh in the Discord here. I'd like to read 1 or 2 out if you'll indulge me.
Go for it. I read these. There's some good ones in here.
Vinin 126, Oasis, last picked in Bad Stuff Cubes.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Of course, there's only one. These things are only good in multiples.
Yeah. I like this one. Hey, Oasis, I don't even run your most popular card, Wonderwall. Like the band. That's from B. Grasley, CS132.
Oh, no. And then I believe is there not a card, Wall of Wonders? That was
Wall of Wonder, yeah.
Wall of Wonder?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. Wall of Wonder. Looks like a weird giant crab wall. Anyways.
And this is my favorite one, Paradox SG. Hey, Oasis, the only shade you have is what we throw at you.
Burn, 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 burn. Oh, man. Forget about it. But you know what's crazy about Oasis is that it's not even a desert.
It's not even a desert.
Like, hey, Oasis, call me when you're a desert, man. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
For real. How is it not a desert? The picture is of a desert.
I guess it's the part that's not desert, right?
Yeah, I guess. But, like, aren't oases only in deserts? Like,
I don't know, man.
It should be a desert land. For sure it should be.
Should be.
Anyways, so there you go. We talked about utility lands.
Yes.
Mostly on budget, some not. But, stuff that we've certainly used in our real, like, homemade decks. Like, we don't put them all the time in the show decks, but you'll find them a lot in our, like, actual decks that we make.
Yeah, right. Like, so make sure you run them, right? Like, take a look at your decks and take a look at the mana base. And if you only have like 2 or 3 non-color lands, I think you got room for at least a couple more. And like, you do yourself a favor, throw in some of those gumball ones that maybe don't have a ton of utility now, but like, you never know. You never know when you might need them.
Rogue's Passage. I mean, I didn't mention how much Arcane Lighthouse is, but it's not that much. But like, it is one of those cards that like seems to be going up in price slowly, right?
I feel like I also forgot. I feel I saw it at about $250-ish.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it's like. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up right now.
Yeah, $250.
Yeah, like $250, right? Which is like it's not out of budget, but it's also like $250 for a land. You know what I mean? It doesn't add. That's not helping our mana base, color wise. So,
well, and we all know where we can buy some of these cards.
Obviously, Wizards Tower,
right.
wizardtower.com. Go check it out. Also check out mtgcanada.com, which you'll find some articles from myself and Sean up there. Finished up the 3-color commander set review. Like set review. Like, I guess set review is not the right term. Like tri-color review. Yeah, there you go. Finished that one up this week, basically. So go check it out.
And I'll just say right now, I think so. Our coupon code for December is Brewsmas.
Brewsmas.
Like BREW, not like if you get punched.
Not Brews.
But the Tower, they're having the sale on games and stuff now for the month of December. If you buy a couple of board games, you get some discounts. But that also applies. There's a lot of sales still on like dual decks and fat packs. So if you want to get some old stuff like that. Oh, look, there's a Conspiracy Take the Crown booster boxes on sale for like $15 off.
Whoa, nice. I'd get some friends together and just draft that.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Or do that and then keep all the cards yourself and create a conspiracy cube, which I think is that's a good idea.
Yep.
Of both conspiracy sets, you make a cube of them. Man, that's a good move.
That's a good idea. We got to do that.
You could even toss a few of the new unstable cards in there, maybe even because I know there's a couple that are similar to some things you'd find in conspiracy, like the pack thing and all that.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay, well, that's it for this week, though. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have a Brews News segment coming right up after this. And otherwise, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brews News. I'm Andy.
And I'm Sean.
This week, a commentary from Omnath, Locus of Rage. Hello, dear viewers. Omnath, Locus of Rage here with another commentary. I've been playing and viewing the plane of Ixalan for a while now, and I've discovered something. Back in my day, explorers could just be anyone. You simply had to find a quest and set yourself forward on your own gumption and your own volition, your own drive to be something and be someone. Whereas now, it seems, you need permission from the powers that be that give you keywords, and that's the only way you can actually explore now, and it's only in certain colors, and I just... I'm sorry. I get a little mad. But it seems that it was a lot better back on Zendikar when our merfolk stayed in the water where they belonged. They didn't want to get on the land and mix it around with the elves or the Eldrazi that were roaming around. In this version, in this new plane, the merfolk live in rivers. Rivers! And not just the ocean. Listen, everyone's free to explore wherever they want. What I'm saying is you don't need someone's permission to look around your surroundings and look where you are and look where you come from and just Anyways, next topic. Pirates sure are invading a lot of things these days, and back in my day, we didn't even have pirates. They were sort of an unofficial thing from before time existed. No one was really worried about a pirate taking you hostage or stealing your things, whereas now, we've got a great admiral lady who, with 3 friends, will simply come in and just take your best thing. And it's not really fair, because I put a lot of work into the things that I own and a lot of mana, and it just doesn't feel good when someone just takes it and they can cast it themselves because they took it hostage. Anyways, I have been going to therapy for this, and it's something that I'm working on, and I am trying to be a better Omnath for everyone out there. It's just sometimes I'm right in the middle of a story in therapy, and I'm just telling my therapist about it, and then the time runs out, and I've paid so much money to be there. Okay. Anyways, so we'll see you next time in the commentary section. Back to you, Andy and Sean.
Thank you, Omnath. The opinions expressed by Omnath might represent the opinions of Commander's Brew. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we had him on the show. We might as well take responsibility for it.
Yeah. Oh boy, that guy's a high maintenance editorial.
Check his blood pressure next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does he have blood?
Check his mana pressure.
Anyway, that's been Brews News. Keep it on the face down. If you want to contact us, I'm at Sean Tabaris.
And I'm at Andy Holbone.
Send us an email at commandersbrew@gmail.com.
You can find out when we go live on Twitch if you follow us at twitch.tv.
And if you care to support us on Patreon, check us out at patreon.com.
And you can find our deck list on tappedout.net.
And if we forgot anything, commandersbrew.com.